Everything stopped. Oh no.
What's that?
Dude, look at this. Oh, dude, she's smoked, buddy. Like bad.
In the middle of the 2024 Yukon mining season, Parker Schnabel found himself in serious trouble. His 10,000-ounce gold goal looked completely out of reach. This is the story of how he stumbled onto a $430,000 gold patch and pulled off one of the greatest comebacks of his career. But before that massive payday, there was a near disaster that almost shut everything down, and a final gold total that left Parker speechless. During a routine job, Parker issued a warning. This will act just like a zipper. If it catches on anything, it'll rip the belt wide open. The crew rushed to get Alec, Liam, and anyone else who could help fix the problem fast. What happened just after the weigh-in pushed Parker's crew to the breaking point. Taven, part of a brand new green crew, was struggling. Parker's nonstop drive to hit 10,000 ounces had drained every available resource. He'd hired new operators and thrown them straight into intense work with little time to ease in. Taven, barely out of his teens and eager to escape his small hometown, suddenly found himself behind the controls of a machine worth a fortune, and now he was stuck. He'd been trying to widen a road along the cut, dumping material into a gap, but the ground beneath him was unstable slough, soft fill that couldn't support the weight of the truck. When the cab shifted beneath him, he froze and did the only safe thing he could. He stopped. His voice was tight with stress as he grabbed the radio and called his foreman, Mitch Blasky. Mitch, you got a copy? Yeah, man. What's up? I'm stuck up here. I'm gonna need a little help with the dozer, maybe a pull from the front. All right, I'll head that way. Mitch was already having a brutal day. He was juggling a shortage of equipment, trying to keep the wash plant, Roxanne, supplied with pay dirt, and training new crew members all at once. The plant was minutes away from running out of material, and now he had to drop everything for an emergency extraction. This wasn't just bad timing, it was a full-blown crisis. Every moment spent rescuing the truck was a moment not sluicing gold. Arriving in the powerful D10 dozer, Mitch immediately understood the danger. Taven was frustrated and apologetic, but blame didn't matter now. The ground was so soft that even the dozer began to slide as Mitch got close. One wrong move could mean losing not just the truck, but the dozer too, or worse. What most people don't realize is that this kind of rescue is as much engineering as it is skill. Mitch couldn't simply pull the truck free. First, he had to rebuild the ground underneath it. He had other trucks dump loads of fresh, stable material beside the stranded machine, slowly forming a safety berm. I'll come up here and see if we can cut some of this material behind you, Mitch explained. If we can do that, you might be able to back up a bit, but I'm worried this thing might want to roll. He used the dozer blade to push and shape the new fill, creating a stronger edge next to the precarious tires. It was a masterclass in precision, heavy equipment work, done under enormous pressure. Once the bank was reinforced, Mitch instructed Taven to back up. Slowly, the truck's tires dug into the new material, and inch by inch, the massive machine crawled back to safety. The relief was immediate. Still shaking from the close call, Taven thanked Mitch and even tried to hug him. Mitch, ever the no-nonsense veteran, brushed it off. He wasn't a hugger. He just told the young operator to get back to work and keep the dirt moving. This close call, though it ended safely, highlighted a much bigger issue. It was the first real sign that Parker's bold, high-stakes gamble was pushing his entire team to the edge. One rookie mistake had cost them hours of production, and time was the one thing they absolutely could not waste. Why Big Red was failing Parker. Schnabel didn't come to the Yukon to have an average season. He set an enormous, record-breaking goal, 10,000 ounces of gold. What most people don't realize is what that number actually means. With gold around $2,500 an ounce, 10,000 ounces equals $25 million. To hit that, you need a flawless, non-stop, high-production season. But Parker's season had been anything but flawless. Before the upcoming cleanup, he had just 576 ounces. He was chasing a legendary target, yet barely making a dent. The pressure was immense, and it was landing squarely on the shoulders of his foreman, Mitch Blasky. Mitch was responsible for the main operation at the Long Cut, 20 acres of heavy production ground. His number one job was keeping the wash plant, Roxanne, constantly fed with pay dirt. But Mitch was battling a serious lack of resources. He was short on machines, and even worse, short on experienced operators. Parker had his crew scattered across multiple working sites, stretched dangerously thin. That's why rookies like Taven Peterson were suddenly thrown into high-stakes roles. When you're trying to run at maximum output every day, inexperienced operators don't just slow things down, they make everything harder. The crew was struggling to keep momentum, and the soft, unstable ground combined with frequent machine failures meant they were barely moving forward. Roxanne, the plant that was supposed to be Parker's biggest moneymaker, was constantly starved for material. But Roxanne wasn't the only issue. Parker was also running Big Red, his second wash plant, in an area called the Bridge Cut. It was supposed to boost his totals, but instead it was dragging him down. Big Red was processing top gravels, material that almost never contains good gold, and the numbers proved it. Parker admitted they had dived into this property head first, spending more money than ever before while getting the least return they'd ever seen. The prior week, Big Red had produced an embarrassingly low 30 ounces. It was a terrible result that put even more pressure on the Long Cut operation. With one plant failing, Parker was forced to rely almost entirely on Roxanne to save his entire season. It was a high-risk situation, and Parker was stretched to the breaking point. And now Roxanne was running out of pay dirt. Parker's best comeback ever then came the moment of truth. The weekly gold weigh-in, Parker met Mitch with tension hanging thick in the air. Parker dryly commented on the exciting week, clearly referencing Taven's near disaster. The Long Cut, he said, wasn't exactly handing over its gold easily. Now they would see whether all their struggles and risks were finally going to pay off. First up was the cleanup from Big Red, the plant no one had high hopes for. They poured the gold onto the scale, 30, 40, 50. The final count was 55.8 ounces. It was almost double the previous week's 30 ounces, worth close to $140,000. But considering the fuel burned and the hours wasted, it was still painfully disappointing. Parker wasn't impressed. He joked that Big Red seemed to be on some strange exercise program designed specifically to not find gold. That mediocre result put all the pressure on Roxanne. If the main plant didn't deliver, the week would be a total disaster. Then Mitch brought out Roxanne's gold, the gold they had fought for all week. The gold Taven's truck was hauling dirt for before getting stuck. The gold Mitch had been scrambling nonstop to keep flowing. They began pouring it out. It was immediately clear this wasn't going to be another weak cleanup. The scale flew past 50 ounces, then 90, then over 100. The gold kept coming, 130, 150, 170, and climbing. The final weight came in at an incredible 171.95 ounces. As the numbers climbed, 20, 40, 50, 80, 90, breaking 100, then 130, 145, 150, 170. Everyone knew this was the big hit they'd been hoping for. At current gold prices, that one cleanup was worth just under $430,000. This was the comeback moment. This was the rich patch they'd been chasing. In a single pour, Roxanne produced more than triple what Big Red had, proving that the Long Cut held the real key to Parker's season. It was a massive, season-saving payoff, a reward for the crew's exhausting fight through breakdowns, soft ground, and near disaster. The huge haul brought their weekly total to 227 ounces. But Parker's reaction wasn't what anyone expected. Still 9,000 ounces to go. While the crew celebrated, the pan overflowing with heavy yellow gold, the reality was far harsher. Yes, the $430,000 cleanup, combined with Big Red's contribution, gave them 227.75 ounces for the week. In the unforgiving world of Klondike gold mining, that was a monster win. The crew desperately needed this boost after a week of stress danger, and setbacks. You could see the relief on their faces. This haul didn't just save the week, it may have saved the entire month. But while the others celebrated, Parker wasn't smiling. He was calculating. The sound of the scale settling wasn't cha-ching. To him, it was a ticking clock. After tallying the numbers, the season total stood at 804.25 ounces, a respectable total for any regular miner. Then the cold truth hit. They were still 9,200 ounces short. That massive $430,000 win barely scratched the surface. They were still 92% away from the 10,000 ounce goal. For any normal mining operation, 227 ounces would be an excellent week. But Parker Schnabel doesn't run a normal mine. He runs a high-cost, high-risk operation built entirely around one giant gamble. To hit 10,000 ounces, he would need to pull in far more than this every single week for the rest of the already short Yukon season. This cleanup wasn't a victory. It was proof the gold existed, but also proof that they weren't mining it fast enough. And for Parker, it triggered a flood of new theories. What did this patch mean? A patch this rich doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a sign of something bigger. But a sign of what? Parker's mind was no longer in the gold room. He was staring at geological maps in his head, running possibilities. Was this streak just a lucky fluke? Or was it, as Klondike old-timers often claim, the outer edge of something enormous? A hint of a buried paleo channel, an ancient riverbed packed with gold, a hidden gold highway that could hold 50,000 ounces or more. If this cleanup came from gold leaking out of that ancient channel, then the true mother lode was nearby. But where? 10 feet to the left? 50 feet deeper? If he chased the wrong direction, it could ruin the entire operation. One wrong decision, and Parker could bankrupt himself on a geological guess. Then came an even more terrifying possibility. The Klondike is infamous for false bedrock, a layer of hard-packed clay or barren rock that looks like the bottom but isn't. It fools miners into thinking they've hit pay layer when they're actually stopping too early. What if this rich gold wasn't on real bedrock? What if it had washed down from above and settled on a false bottom? What if the true pay layer, the one his grandfather, John Schnabel, always spoke of, was still buried 20 feet deeper? That possibility was a nightmare. If true, then every yard they'd mined this season, every dollar in fuel, every hour of work might have been wasted. That $430,000 cleanup didn't just hint at something bigger. It suggested they were only scraping the crumbs while the real feast lay buried deeper, right beneath their tracks. This wasn't a victory. It was a sign that they might have made a massive miscalculation. Parker's mind was already racing ahead. While the crew was still celebrating, he cut through the excitement with a sharp urgency in his voice. The theories didn't matter anymore unless he could get real data, and the only way to get that data was simple. Move more dirt. A lot more. He gave the order. Fire up 3 plants. Fire up 4 plants. I don't care. We need to get gold running through here. They were still short over 9,000 ounces, and at the rate things were going, they needed to accelerate fast. If the ancient channel theory was correct, Parker needed to spread out across the cut, running test pans from multiple locations at once. But if the false bedrock theory was the real explanation, then he needed to commit a machine to drilling straight down. Someone would have to punch through until they hit true bedrock, or until they ran out of time, money, or luck. Suddenly, the pressure was higher than ever. This wasn't just a race against the coming winter. It was a race against uncertainty, against permafrost hard as concrete, against bad ground that refused to cooperate, against the possibility that Big Red was burning fuel for nothing until it reached better dirt. The $430,000 hit wasn't the end of the story. It wasn't a payday to celebrate. It was a clue, a possible treasure map, or a deadly trap. It marked the beginning of an even more desperate fight for the season. Was Parker right to chase such an enormous goal? Or was he pushing his crew past their breaking point?